Rise of Power and Hidden Grandeur. The story of the Mughal Empire begins in the early 16th century when Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur, a prince without a kingdom, set his eyes upon the fertile plains of northern India. Babur was a descendant of Timur on his father's side and Genghis Khan on his mother's, a man whose bloodline carried the memory of conquerors, but whose early life was plagued by misfortune. Cast out from his ancestral domains in Central Asia, Babur wandered with a small band of loyal followers, dreaming of a land where he could build his dynasty. That land would be Hindustan. In 1526, Babur crossed the Indus River and marched towards Delhi. At the Battle of Panipat, his disciplined troops and his mastery of gunpowder weapons shattered the much larger army of Ibrahim Lodi, the Sultan of Delhi. This victory opened the gates of India to Babur and marked the beginning of the Mughal dynasty. Yet Babur himself never fully adjusted to the Indian climate or culture. He longed for the gardens of Samarkand and Kabul, and though he planted gardens and brought Persianate culture into India, his reign was short. He died in 1530, leaving the throne to his son Humayun. Humayun, however, lacked his father's ruthless energy. His reign was marked by uncertainty and exile. Within a few years he was defeated by the brilliant Afghan general Sher Shah Suri, and the Mughal dream seemed broken. Humayun fled, wandering from court to court, finding refuge in Persia. For 15 long years he lived as an exile, sustained by hope alone. Yet fate granted him a second chance. In 1555, with Persian support, Humayun reclaimed Delhi, only to fall to his death a year later, slipping on the steps of his library. His passing left the empire to a boy of just 13, his son Akbar. It was Akbar who would truly shape the Mughal Empire into one of the greatest realms in history. Inheriting a fragile throne, Akbar faced rebellions from Afghan chiefs, Rajput kings, and fractious nobles. Yet through both strength and diplomacy, he gradually expanded his rule across northern and central India. His vision of kingship was unique. Akbar saw himself not merely as a conqueror, but as a unifier of peoples. Unlike other monarchs of his time, he welcomed different faiths into his court. Hindus, Jains, Christians, and Muslims debated in his hall of discussion, the Ibadat Khana. He married Rajput princesses and gave them positions of honor, forging alliances that turned enemies into loyal partners. Akbar's greatest secret was his understanding that India could not be ruled by force alone. He built an administration that balanced central authority with local power. His land reforms and tax system, known as the Zapt, provided stability, while his military innovations ensured the loyalty of his commanders. Yet he was also a man of paradoxes. He experimented with religion, forming a spiritual path called the Din-e-Ilahi, which blended aspects of Islam, Hinduism, and other faiths. Though it never spread widely, it revealed Akbar's restless search for truth. Under his reign, the Mughal court glittered with wealth. Cities like Fatehpur Sikri rose in red sandstone, blending Persian elegance with Indian artistry. Painters illuminated manuscripts with vibrant colors, while poets and musicians gave voice to the emperor's vision. Akbar's reign laid the foundations of a truly Indo-Persian civilization, one that would outshine the courts of Europe and astonish visitors from afar. By the time of his death in 1605, the Mughal Empire stretched from the Hindu Kush to Bengal, from Kashmir to the Deccan. Yet the story was far from over. Akbar's successors would both inherit and test the empire he built.
When Akbar's son Jahangir ascended the throne, the Mughal Empire stood at the height of its power. Jahangir, meaning Caesar of the world, was a ruler of refinement, but also of weakness. He was deeply devoted to art, nature, and beauty, and his memoirs reflect his love for gardens, animals, and the pleasures of life. Yet, behind the curtain of elegance lay a man often ruled by others, especially his influential queen, Nur Jahan. She was no mere consort. Nur Jahan issued coins in her name, sat with the emperor in public audiences, and effectively steered the affairs of state. Her intelligence and ambition made her one of the most powerful women in Indian history, a secret queen whose influence shaped the Mughal court in ways unseen by earlier rulers. Jahangir's reign brought cultural brilliance. Mughal painting reached its peak, blending Persian finesse with Indian naturalism. European artists and Jesuit missionaries visited the court, introducing new techniques and ideas. Yet, politically, the empire began to show strains. Rebellions flared, noble factions clashed, and the seeds of discontent were sown. When Jahangir died in 1627, the empire passed to his son, Shah Jahan, the man who would give the world its most famous monument of love, the Taj Mahal. Shah Jahan's reign marked the zenith of Mughal power and prosperity. Under him, architecture became the grand language of empire. The Red Fort of Delhi, the Jama Masjid, and above all, the Taj Mahal, symbolized the might and refinement of Mughal rule. Yet, Shah Jahan's obsession with beauty and monuments concealed growing cracks. His endless wars in the Deccan drained the treasury, and the rigid court life he enforced distanced the emperor from his subjects. In 1658, Shah Jahan was overthrown by his own son, Aurangzeb, after a bitter war of succession among the royal princes. Aurangzeb imprisoned his father in Agra Fort, where the old emperor spent his last years gazing at the Taj Mahal from a distance. Aurangzeb, the sixth Mughal emperor, was a ruler of contrasts. Stern, devout, and ambitious, he expanded the empire to its greatest territorial extent, stretching from Kashmir to the deep south of India. But his rule came with heavy costs. Unlike Akbar, Aurangzeb enforced a stricter interpretation of Islam, reimposing the jizya tax on non-Muslims and alienating many Hindu allies. His endless campaigns exhausted the empire's resources and stirred resistance across the land. Behind the glitter of the Mughal throne, secrets of decline unfolded. Corruption spread among officials, the loyalty of nobles wavered, and local powers began to rise again. The very vastness of the empire became its weakness, for it was too large to govern efficiently. When Aurangzeb died in 1707, he left behind an empire that seemed powerful but was in truth fragile. Within decades, the Mughal court in Delhi became a shadow of its former glory, its emperors reduced to figureheads under the growing influence of regional states and eventually European colonial powers. Yet the secrets of the Mughal Empire are not only those of decline, but also of endurance. Even as the empire weakened politically, its cultural legacy endured. Mughal art, architecture, language, and traditions became deeply woven into the fabric of South Asia. The domes and minarets, the gardens and paintings, the poetry and music, all carried echoes of an age when emperors dreamed of ruling not just with power, but with imagination. The story of the Mughals is the story of ambition and fragility, of vision and blindness. From Babur's first victory at Panipat to the final days of faded emperors in Delhi, the Mughals left behind secrets that still shape the subcontinent today. Their empire rose in splendor and fell in silence, but its echoes remain in stone, in memory, and in legend.